Hello guys and welcome to Quipoin. So in the previous video of our CSS series we learned about the tables in CSS, how to basically design and improve our table. We learned very important steps in that, for example border collapse and border sizing. In today's video we are going to discuss one of the most important and one of the most fundamental aspect of CSS, that is CSS display. Now, what is the CSS display? CSS display property basically tells us how the CSS will render the page, how the page will look like in a web app. So, without any further delay, hit that like button, subscribe to Quipoin, and let's get started. Now, I already told you what does the CSS display mean. The CSS display property basically control how your element will look into the page, how the element will be rendered in your page. Now, there are basically many types of display, but in this video we are going to discuss about most common types, that is inline block and none. These are the most common type of CSS display that you will see around any web page, and we are going to discuss these four properties, these four values of CSS display. So I have opened my ID here and I have created an HTML page. Let's create a div class and let's write something in this div class. For example, hi and welcome to Quipoin CSS journey. Hope you are en enjoying. Hope you are enjoying the journey. Okay, so I have written this very basic sentence and in my HTML. Now let's look into how it will be looking in our web page. So you know how it will look. Okay, a very basic sentence in a web page. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my CSS display in this sentence one by one. For example, let's add a span, okay, tag, and let's write something. We will we will okay discuss display CSS and also learn HTML, JavaScript, Java, and other front end things. Okay, so I have written a basic statement here, and let's scroll it back. I have written a basic statement with a span tag. Now let's see what is the difference between inline block and inline block. So coming to the first is our inline display. What does this do is basically they make the element inline. Okay, this means that the elements doesn't take any extra space and start with a new line. It take as much space that is required and it starts on the same line. As here you can see, I used span, which is by default inline display, and it doesn't took any extra space, it just continued. If I took paragraph, now here you see as soon as I entered paragraph tag, it changed the line because paragraph is the block display. That is why it changes the line. Similarly, div is a block display. That is why it changes the line. That is inline. For example, let's see here. If I write span, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to write tag, and let's write span and give it a background color of blue. Okay, so I have given the background color to the span blue. So here you can see, we'll just make it in one line, or yeah, better. So here you can see that the span is currently in the blue color. Now what if I change it display? Okay, for example, I write display here and I write inline. So span is by default in inline, so it is in one line. But what if I write it in block? As soon as I wrote block, it just changed the line, because block take whole width of the parent container. So if my width is this much, okay, so block will take whole width. As you can see, and also came below, and it also breaked the line after enjoying. This is the difference between inline and block. I hope you're clear what inline does and what block does. The major example of inline display is span, anchor tag, and image tag. They are by default the inline display. And the major example of block is div, p, heading. These are basically major example of block. You may have noticed when you write div or paragraph or heading, it take whole line, and when you use span or anchor tag or image, it just takes as much space that is required. So I hope you are clear with the inline and block. Now we are going to learn about this inline block. What is this inline block? Inline block is nothing but it basically comprises the property of both. It inherits the property of both inline and block. It gives you advantage of fixing height and width while keeping your sentence in a flow. Let's see what does that mean. If I write here inline and block, inline block. Now if I give it a width, for example, I give the width of 200 pixel, okay, and height of 200 pixel. So now you see that though it is a block level element, but it continued the sentence. So this is what inline block does. If I just give it in a block statement, so you see that it changed the line. Okay, it changed the line and the height and width was 2 pixel. But if I give it in inline, which is, if I give it in inline, so the height and width doesn't work because inline doesn't take any extra space. So if you want to give an extra space, like if you want to get the property of block, but keeping your content in a flow, then you can go with the inline block. And what this will do, you can just give a height and width to your span, keeping your sentence in a flow. So this is what the inline block and inline mean. I hope the difference between inline block and inline block is clear. These three are the major and the most important CSS display. We will be using this extensively. Now comes the none value of display. What this none value will do, it will simply remove that element. The element will not be visible. As you see here, the content in the span just vanished as I wrote none. So this is the property of none. It is used to remove a particular element from the paragraph or from your content. So these were the basic display properties, and we are done with it too. These were the basic display properties that we have to remember. I'm going to repeat it again. So the first was inline. Inline, basically what it does is, the inline basically doesn't take any extra space or doesn't start with a new line. It takes as much space that is needed, and it helps in the continuity of the content. Then comes our block. So block will basically take whole width of the parent container and it will start from a new line. Then comes our inline block. Inline block basically inherit the property of both inline and block. So if you want to keep your content in continuity but give a different height and width to it, so you will use inline block. And then comes the none value. So basically when you write none, so the element just disappear or it vanishes. So these are the four main displays in CSS. I hope you understood the display CSS. This is one of the most core topic of CSS that will help you in redesigning your content. If you have any query, you can go to the CSS display tutorial and you can read the article here, and you can solve the exercises too. We have uploaded exercises. For you. You can solve these exercises and create these. And if you have any question, you can just go to the Let's Discuss forum. You can write your query here and we will be answering all your questions. I hope you enjoyed the video. In the next video, we will be learning about max width and Z position. So they are again one of the basic fundamental designing of CSS. Hit that like button, subscribe to Quipoin so you don't miss any video. Till then, thank you for watching this video.